Hello and welcome to Business Finishing School. Let your business brain finish what your entrepreneurial heart started. Our catalyzing statement is a successful entrepreneur inside of every business. Enjoy this module.
Welcome, Finishing School members. This is Rick Sapio, and this is Module 25 of your transformational program. First, you learn the foundational principles of business. Then you learn business acceleration training, and now you're in year 3. And year 3 is all about accountability. If you have not watched the orientation video to this module and to this year, please watch it now. Please stop listening and watch the orientation. That will help us. So what are we going to talk about today, Module 25? The name of this module, as you've seen the name listed right there, is Meaningful Business Objectives. That is probably the most important and often asked question that I get from people in the program is, I cannot get my staff to embrace our goals. Or, how do we get meaningful goals to help our staff become more engaged? Or how does the business have goals that matter? So that's what this module is all about. I want to start with the business frame, which many of you have learned at the boot camp. And the business frame begins with understanding that this program is about adding consciousness to all business decisions and actions. So we want to make sure that you're conscious about what you're doing. I don't care what decision or action that you're taking in your business, you have to add consciousness to that decision-making process. And oftentimes as people, and as business people, we tend to go through our lives reacting and putting out fires. So I know many of you can relate to that. This program is about simplicity, probability, and leverage. And nothing adds more simplicity, probability, and leverage than creating meaningful objectives. So, to review the business frame, you want to start with a purpose for your business. You then want to take that purpose and convert it to a catalyzing statement. You then want to have values for your business. You then want to have a business strategy. And in the module on strategy, we learned about what we're talking about here, which is making sure that everything aligns when you have your business strategy, which is about who, what, and how. And then number 5 is having long-term objectives that matter. And then number 6 on the business frame is, of course, quarterly business objectives. And all of this lines up. So we're going to stay in this module on the objective side of the equation. You'll notice this is Rick speaking alone right now. This year, year 3, is going to be very flexible. At times, Patrick will help me. At times, it will be me by myself. And we want to make sure that this module is portable for you. So you've got the foundational training in front of your computer. You've gotten business acceleration. You've worked through your modules, hopefully. Now I want you to listen to this and re-listen to it in the gym, in the car, in the shower. I don't care. We want to bake these principles into your molecules so that it becomes second nature to you. All right, let's dive right in. When you think about all of the stakeholders in your business, you think about all of the people that your business relies upon and whom rely upon your business for their existence. So if you think about stakeholders from the conscious capitalism perspective, there's mainly 5, the way they look at business. And there's a book that recently came out. It's called Conscious Capitalism. And it's written by Raj Sisodia and John Mackey. But in that book, one aspect of conscious capitalism is stakeholder orientation. And when you think about stakeholder orientation, your business has people that rely on it. It's society or community at large. It's partners or vendors. That's number 2. Number 3 are your investors. And you as an owner are an investor in your business. Some of you have outside investors as well. its customers, its employees. But I'd like to expand that further and have you think about all stakeholders. Many of your stakeholders are, I'd like to lump them into different categories to broaden it a little bit. Ex-employees are stakeholders in many regards. Ex-clients, ex-patients, ex of anything, whether they were on your mailing list and they're not now. But what I'd like you to brainstorm for, and when you go to the implementation guide that accompanies this module, you'll see it. I would like you to try to figure out what are 15 stakeholders around your business. And it could be, as I mentioned before, ex-employees could be a stakeholder, ex-clients, ex-customers, ex-patients. Because one of the biggest revenue sources for a lot of companies is when they try to revive former clients. So I want you to think about all the different stakeholders for your business and try to come up with 15. Break up those broader categories that you have listed in the implementation guide into subcategories. You want to get as many stakeholders as you can. In some cases, the building that you're in could be a stakeholder. In some cases, other tenants in the building or the ownership of the building. So think about it. Could be charities that you're associated with. The reason why I want you to do this exercise is when it comes to coming up with meaningful objectives, these objectives must matter to the business. So to go back and review when we talked about management by objectives, at the beginning of every year, we wanted you to come up with 10 business objectives for the business. Now, in addition to that, on a quarterly basis, we want you to come up with 5 meaningful quarterly objectives. In addition to those 5 objectives, each one of your employees needs to have objectives that matter. This is where stakeholders are important. I want you to imagine each one of your staff members having an objective related to one of your stakeholders. So if you could brainstorm in a big way, really think about 15 stakeholders of your business. And some of you may come up with more. If you're a larger company, you can come up with 100 stakeholders. And assign those stakeholders as permanent responsibilities to your employees. So let's say, for example, you have 15 employees, and let's say you come up with 15 stakeholders. Assign those stakeholders to each one of your employees, one each. So if one of your stakeholders are, for example, your investors or your bank, make sure that one of your employees is responsible for every single one of your stakeholders. Some of your employees might have 2 stakeholders. If, for example, you have a smaller company. If you have a larger company, come up with a large number of stakeholders and assign one of those stakeholders to each one of your employees. I hope you get the point. A lot of people ask me about this, but it's pretty clear. Make a list of your stakeholders, assign an employee to it. Now, when it comes time for them to come up with objectives for themselves that they're going to get paid on if they achieve them, that align with the company's objectives, why not give them objectives based on stakeholders? Now you've opened up the kimono to create meaningful objectives. Oftentimes when I look at businesses, they go years without focusing on their bank or their landlord or their favorite charity or their customer base. All they focus on is one stakeholder, which is profit, and that's to the owners. So you really want to think about having a sustainable long-term business. And when you have a sustainable long-term business, one of the things that I know you're doing is you're paying attention to all your stakeholders and you're having business objectives that are meaningful to each one of those objectives, to each one of those stakeholders rather, on an annual basis, at least one. So, I hope this is clear to you. It will become clearer as you work through the implementation guide. That's the first bucket that I wanted to talk about, and that was having goals associated with stakeholders, because good businesses always focus on all of their stakeholders, at least as it relates to objectives. They don't ignore a certain stakeholder category for years at a time. This will add value to your business because you're constantly priming the pump as it relates to all of your stakeholders. All right, I want to move on to the second meaningful objective category. We've talked about this in the past, but for some reason, I don't know if it was explained wrong or people didn't want to dive deep on it. But when you go to your CPA or your CFO inside your company, or if you do your financials yourself, whatever you turned over to your bank, I want you to take out your balance sheet. I want you to take out your profit and loss statement. And if you have to stop the tape right now and go find your balance sheet and your profit and loss statement, you'll see a lot of items on there. So a typical balance sheet has things like current assets and fixed assets and other assets and current liabilities and long-term liabilities. But in your current assets, you've got cash in the bank, you've got inventory, you've got prepaid expenses. On your fixed assets, you've got machinery and equipment, you've got furniture and fixtures, you've got leaseholder improvements, you've got real estate. You also have liabilities, accounts payable, taxes payable, notes payable. You have long-term liabilities, things like bank loans, notes payable to stockholders, etc., etc., etc. I want you to take each one of those buckets in your business and expand it. So if you have various banking relationships, make it 3 or 4 lines. Expand it. Why do I want you to expand it? Because, again, I want you to put somebody's name that is an employee in your business and put their name next to every single category and have that expand their job responsibility. We talk about simplicity, probability, and leverage. Nothing builds more leverage, and my definition of leverage is getting things done through other people. Nothing improves leverage like giving people meaningful objectives in your business. We've got to tackle Superman syndrome. Superman syndrome is one of the most debilitating things to a company, and that's when the boss flies in to save the day all the time. You've got to push down responsibility to your staff. So now that you've got your balance sheet pulled out, you looked at it, you assign people responsibility, think about it. I want you to take the youngest employee, or the newest employee, I should say, and say, you're responsible for a bank account. I want to make sure that we're getting the maximum interest. I want you to make sure that there's no money leaks. How much would that pump them up? How much would it make them go home and discuss you in a positive light and talk about how, wow, I now have added responsibility? That's what you want. You want your employees to, one, know the business. You want them to trust the business. You want them to trust you. You want them to have objectives that matter. And this is an easy way to accomplish that. Now we move to the profit and loss statement. In the profit and loss statement, one of the things you have is income or revenue. And most often, and I hate when CFOs and CPAs do this, they want to lump all your revenue in one small category, income. But for me, when I'm looking at a business, I want to know all the income. Is this new business? Is this income from a special sale or special product? What product code? Was it business from old clients? Was it business from brand new clients? Was it business from the month of January or was it February? Was it repeat business? Was it a sale after a sale? Was it additional products built after an original product was sold? You get the point here. You want to have as many categories of income as you possibly can. Why am I saying this? You already have the answer. The answer is you want to put somebody's name next to each one and have them own it. Imagine, again, we'll go back to the new employee. First day on the job, you're saying to them, you are responsible for this line item on the income. And this is new product sales. How much would that pump them up? Because right now, most businesses that I look at have small numbers of categories when it comes to income. Well, guess what? We're going to break out the categories on everything. Most businesses, we're going to move to expenses now, have one category called advertising. Wait a minute. Aren't there many different types of advertising? Isn't there branding advertising and direct sales advertising and internet advertising and radio advertising? Split it up. Have as many categories as you possibly can. Now you're going to have to open up the kimono to your employees. You're putting their name next to each one of these, and now they're responsible. And why not create meaningful goals around your expenses to help your employees help you get your expenses down? You could say to the employee, I'm going to give you this category of advertising. For every dollar we drop the expenses without a commensurate drop in sales, mind you, we'll give you 50% of that savings back as a bonus this quarter. Or you give somebody the phone bill and you say, look, our phone bill is $2,000 a month. For every dollar you lower it, we'll bonus you. You want to have as many line items as you possibly can, and you want people to own those line items. So whenever somebody comes up to me out of boot camp or on a call or sends me an email and says, Rick, I ran out of objectives for my employees, I will say that is nonsense. I just gave you hundreds of possible objectives for your employees. Not only that, but we created simplicity, probability, and leverage in the process. Now I want to move to the third phase of this module, and that is related to having meaningful objectives related to the values in your business. When you look at the list of values that every business has, why not create objectives for your employees based on making sure those values are alive and well inside your organization? If one of your values is salesmanship, as an example, or should I say saleswomanship, make sure that you have meaningful objectives around learning how to sell. If one of your values inside your business is being profitable, make sure that you have meaningful objectives around maintaining a profit margin. A lot of companies are afraid to have values like profitability. I think it's absolutely fine. If one of your values inside your business is learning and growth, why not have one of your employees be responsible for ensuring that at least 3% of your revenue goes back to learning and growth initiatives? So look at all of your values and assign a value to each one of your employees. Same thing. Now you've got objectives around your values, which is meaningful. You've got objectives around your P&L and balance sheet items, which is meaningful. And you've got objectives around your stakeholders, which is meaningful. We opened Pandora's box of meaningful objectives with this module. I now want you to look into your personal life as it relates to values. I learned a long time ago, if you want to find out what somebody's committed to, all you have to do is follow them around. The most solid people that you know, they do the same things in their life, whether they're alone, or they're with their family, or they're with their staff. But I often ask people, what are your values? And oftentimes I get a response like, well, my values are God first, family second, business third, health and fitness fourth. Yet, if you follow them around for a week, you'd find out that they're goofing off at the golf course and drinking on the ninth hole, or they're hanging out at clubs at night, or they're, hanging out with friends that don't value what they value. You want to find out exactly what your values are. Obviously, this goes all the way back to the beginning. And then on a personal level, you want to make sure that you have objectives in your life around each one of those values. If one of your values is time with your family, then at the beginning of the year when you're making your calendar, put your vacation plans in the calendar first and build your life around that. If one of your objectives is based on your religion, make sure that you're going to church or religious services every week. So you want to make sure that the things that you value in your life are getting put into your life first. When we look at why, as business people, we're so scattered and busy and overwhelmed, well, it's very easy. Oftentimes, when you follow people around, they're doing the things that they say that they value last. And so I recently interacted with an executive And when we studied his habits on a daily basis for a week, we found out that he watched 20 hours of TV a week. And he saw nothing wrong with that, nothing whatsoever. And I couldn't get him to realize, when you look at your values, where do you see TV on that? 20 plus hours a week is a huge chunk of time. Well, I'd be willing to bet when you look at your life, it's the same thing. There are buckets of time that are being sucked out of your life that aren't consistent with your values. So the point of this phase 3 is all about values. You want to be crystal clear. This is what my life is about, and this is where I'm investing my time, and clear out all the other stuff. This module piggybacks off of many things that we've talked about in the past. Values-based decision making, the doorman principle, the stop doing list. But when you follow this module from the perspective of, these are the values that I want to live my life from, and I want to put first. That's how you live it on a personal basis. In your business, these are the values that the business stands for. And I'm going to assign each one of my values to a different employee to make sure that they ensure that that value is living and breathing and healthy in the organization. One of the things that we do here is each week we pick a value to talk about and focus on for the week. Also on a quarterly basis, we pick a value to focus on for the quarter. So there's one global value for each quarter. And then on the week, we talk about each different one, and we point out where we had that value exemplified in the business. It's very, very, very important to have meaningful objectives around your values and have your values alive and well in the organization. Lastly, one of the things that we've talked about, and I want to stress here, is make sure inside your company somewhere, I don't care if it's a room, a break room, a kitchen, but put your quarterly objectives, whatever you agree on that the company's 5 objectives are, put it on a wall somewhere that every employee can see every day, and have a thermometer associated with it. So on a daily basis, you can increase that thermometer. So let's say, for an example, you want to find 100 new clients this quarter. Well, as you add a new client, have that thermometer increase so people can see with their eyes a 3-foot-high red thermometer growing. And people get excited about things like that. Have 5 thermometers next to each other. What does this exercise ensure? It ensures that your objectives are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and tangible. That's a SMART objective. If you cannot put your objective into a numbered format, then it's probably not SMART. So a lot of people have objectives like, we're going to change over the computer system. Well, that's not a SMART goal. What does that really mean? How do you know you finished it? You need to find objectives that are meaningful to the bottom line of your business, that are moving the business forward, that are pushing stakeholders so that stakeholders are more engaged in your business, and that are meaningful to those stakeholders. So you want to make sure that all of your objectives are SMART. So the overall meta frame for this entire module was having meaningful objectives, and the only way to have meaningful objectives is that if they fit into one of the categories we talked about now, and that they are SMART. So hopefully you got a lot out of this module. If you listened to it and you got something out of it, please interact with the Facebook members only page. That page has been a godsend to many of you, and we love to see the feedback on that page. So before we part, I want to reassert one of the things we've been talking about a lot in the last year or so, and that is that this community of learners works better when all of you dip your toe in various aspects of the program. We've got boot camps, we've got accountability groups, we've got implementation guides, we've got the Facebook fan page, we've got monthly calls that you can listen for members. We've got all different things that you can dip your toe in. And be sure to schedule a time every week. It's the same time every week, at least 1 hour, to interact with the materials in this program, whether it's doing an implementation guide, or reviewing a module, or re-listening to the newest module. Whatever it is, you've got to become a student inside this community of learners to get the results that we're hearing that many of you are getting. And what we're finding is the people that get the most results, the doubling and the tripling of revenue, are the ones that are doing the program. I had a friend call me recently who's in the program, and he said, there should only be one rule for the program. And I said, what's that? And he said, the rule should be do the program. And, it's really interesting. We want you to do the program because we want you to have simplicity, probability, and leverage, and the results that go along with it. So, thank you for listening to this module, and have a great month.
Let your business brain finish what your entrepreneurial heart started.